All right.
Let's get into it.
It's Friday.
It is.
Is it?
It is. It's Friday. Welcome to another episode of the Warfighter Tobacco Podcast. This episode, we have Mikey Fahy on with us.
Hi.
And we're going to dig into a little bit about his background in cigars, which is going to be kind of interesting.
A little bit.
You get a crash course that most people don't get.
It's true.
And then, and then we got some other fun stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm smoking a night shift. Mike, you got the same thing.
I am on that train as well.
Scott, you're rocking a Rosado 660.
Yeah. And I'm pairing it with some tequila.
John and I, who clearly are not degens, are drinking like diet sodas.
I mean, nobody's perfect.
I'm trying to be bougie over here. I got a Diet Coke with lime.
Oh, there you go. I'm A&W cream soda, zero sugar.
Yeah.
Cream
soda and cigars actually pairs really well together.
I've been told that.
Yeah.
So I heard that actually Dave, Warfighter Dave, was mentioned in that. And so I wanted to try it. And yeah, they're right. What they say is true.
Yeah.
It pairs real well with some cigars,
Yeah.
man. Like, obviously, if you guys watch our other show and stuff, you guys know that my favorite cigar is the 762 Field, right? Is the Sumatra.
Yeah.
And phenomenal with cream soda.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Cigar guys did. Yeah. I didn't know, but yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah. It's great.
So, Mikey,
Yeah, man.
who are you? Where did you come from?
Just some dude. I don't know. No. I'm Mikey. I'm a podcast host.
Yeah.
I tell jokes on stages badly and make stupid internet memes and such and hang out with you guys more than anything, actually. Yeah.
So that's kind of present day. Where were you born?
Born in Farmington, New Mexico.
And you went back.
I did. I left Farmington when I was 2 and moved to the roots, to the real hometown of Don't You Dare Say It. I'm originally from Boston, Mass. That's where I grew up. And then spent some time in Wyoming as well and moved back to New Mexico when I was 15.
Okay.
And was super excited to find a recruiting office to get me out of New Mexico. And joined the Marines, spent 15 years, 1 month, 1 week, and 1 day in the United States Marine Corps, who's counting, and got medically retired in 2014 and started contracted, did some contract time, doing cool guy stuff, and then decided I should try college. And I went and got a couple degrees, and now I tell dick jokes and drink whiskey and cigars with y'all. So,
I'm glad you went to college.
Yeah.
right? Super excited about that.
Well, I
degree.
I don't like drinking and smoking cigars with uneducated.
Right. So yeah, that's kind of me in the nutshell. Yeah, man.
Nice. And what'd you do in the Marines?
Well, originally I was a 0331, a machine gunner. Then you get tired of walking, so I lap moved to amphibious assault vehicles. So I was an AM tracker after that. And then you get to Iraq where there's no oceans and they're like, hey, 0300, you made it. And it's like, all right. So yeah.
Nice.
Mostly just grunt stuff, man. Yeah, which is not outside of your guys'
It's probably one
backgrounds as well. Yeah, we all kind of.
We just never had vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice when you get them. It's nice. I'll be honest, man. Like, it's always funny. It was always the pogue versus grunt, conversation always happened, and it's like, dude, I hooked and jabbed way more as a pogue as I ever did as a grunt. like I did way more cool stuff in the pogue world. Plus, I got to sleep in like a cot or something. You know what I mean? Like there was something.
There's perks too.
There's perks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the command vehicle always has something nice about it, right? Like there's perks.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I can't complain. How about you guys? What are you guys up to today?
Doing a podcast.
It's a nice show. Really great setup you guys got here.
Right.
I really like what you've done.
It's kind of familiar
with this studio space.
So when did you get into smoking cigars?
Well, originally, I think like what most people, like high school, you try them and you find the flavored ones with the white owls and the Swisher sweet bullshit, and you think that's smoking cigars. It's not. You learn later that it's not. And then in the military, throughout my career, I moved up pretty quick, and cigars were always around.
Yeah.
Right. Like one of the mentors that I always looked up to is this gentleman named John Singleton, who was a master gunnery sergeant in the United States Marines, and at the time was the senior master guns in the Marine Corps. Just the saltiest of the salty. Like the sergeant major would walk by and he'd be like, fucking boot, bleh, just like the saltiest dude imaginable. He walked around with a stogie and a wooden training katana blade. And that's like how he walked, like down the middle of the battalion office, smoking a cigar. Sergeant major would be like, I smell smoke. He'd be like, mind your business. He'd be like, oh, roger that shit. It was just like the coolest dude ever. And as a boot Marine, I'd watch this salty fuck just like tell officers to eat shit all the time. And just like, he used to call like the XO was a guy named Major Coggins. Good dude. But he used to call him Coggy just to like get under his skin and shit. I was just like, this guy's phenomenal, man.
So how old of a gentleman do you think he was at the time?
He was 30 years in the Marines, so 40 probably. Okay, yeah. He's probably in his 40s, but at that time, I'm 17. He looks ancient to me, and I remember the first time I really interacted with him was about smoking cigars.
Okay.
And I was on duty, and I'd asked to go out and have a cigarette, and my officer of the day, the staff sergeant that I was with, was an absolute prick.
Yeah.
And he was like, no. And Master Guns was in the office behind us, and he'd heard the conversation, and he walked out and he was like, let's go, Devil. Let's go have a smoke. And I looked at the staff sergeant. He was like, you heard the Master Guns? You better get your ass up. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I got my boot and I don't know. And we were out there and I'm having a cigarette and he's having a cigar and we're talking, and he's small talking me. Like he's doing it to let me have a cigarette. Yeah. Like he was doing it to be a cool guy. And I understand that. And I understood it then. Right. And I was just like, I appreciate you, type of stuff. And as we were standing there, I was at a schoolhouse at the time. As we were standing there, like this like train of lieutenants go walking in. So I like drop my cigarette and snapped attention and I salute. And he just kind of does one of these numbers. He's like, and there's one ambitious lieutenant that has to run his mouth to the saltiest dude in the Marine Corps. And he's like, excuse me, Master Guns. I think you're setting a poor example for this Marine, and I rate a salute from you. And he said the single greatest thing I'd ever heard anybody say is he turns and he looks at this kid and he goes, you know what, sir, you're right. You can climb my rockers and find it. And I was just like, this guy is the greatest guy in the world. And then later, as I said, I moved up pretty quick. He was still a Master Guns when I picked up Staff Sergeant. Yeah. And as now a fellow staff NCO with him, right? He was like, he gave me a cigar, and like we ended up being drinking buddies. And tragically, he passed away. Yeah. But like just he was a big influence on my life, personally, professionally. Just probably why I'm salty now. Right. Like it probably rubbed off a little bit. And cigars was a big point of his thing.
Do you remember what cigar he smoked or that he gave you?
He told me it was the same one that Tony Soprano smoked. I remember that.
I should know that, but I don't.
It's the CAO.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think you're right.
It's a CAO.
Justin will probably pull it up here in a second.
Shit. Because he gave me one.
Yeah.
When I got promoted to staff sergeant. Yeah.
Nice.
And then he owned a bar. He was part owner of a bar in Okinawa.
Okay.
So that was like his retirement plan was he was going back to Okinawa, worked a civilian job, and like ran his bar.
Right.
Right. And
it's not a bad gig.
Yeah. Right. Not a bad gig at all. He ended up passing away here in the States though. He got sick and had some lung issues and Agent Orange and shit, still a thing, for a guy that at that age, right. Like, things like that. So, it was rough.
Wow.
But, good dude, man. Everybody just called him Grumpy. It wasn't even Master Guns. It was like, oh, Master Grumps. Yeah, he's over there. He's fine. He's just a good guy. And then I had other aspects of my career, especially in the military, because you guys know, I mean, shit, obviously, your brand is surrounding the crazy history that cigars play within the military community. Yeah, you know, and like another time I was on ship. We were getting ready to go into Fallujah in 2004. Yeah, and I was on the USS Harper's Ferry. The command master chief of that boat was a guy named Daryl Brand. Great guy, and obviously, like we went into Kuwait, they dropped us off, and we went up and did the fight. And that particular group of ships had the option to leave. They didn't have to stay and wait for us. And the command got together and they were like, "Nope, we brought them here. We're bringing them back." And they did gator squares out in the Gulf waiting for us for 10 months. Yeah. I mean, they got to go to like Bahrain and shit. And dude, they got to a little bit. It wasn't that bad, right? But I mean, you're in the Navy, you join the Navy, you're underway. That's kind of your job, right? Yeah. Like, but they sat there like that. And then I remember when we got to Kuwait after Fallujah and after the fight and everything, we were down there getting ready to load back on ships. The very first landing craft that pulled up to see us, the ramp dropped and he was standing there. And he had a box of cigars with him. And he handed them out to all the guys that he knew. Yeah. Nice. And so I got one of those and had a cigar with him on the beach in Kuwait. Nice. And I thought that was fucking cool as shit. Yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, it's steeped in military tradition, right? Like, I mean, and obviously the cameras aren't picking up all of this, but you know, I mean, it's
there's
well documented.
There's pictures from most of the major conflicts that are up on, you know, what used to be our trade show display. You know, and some of them are some pretty famous cigar pictures. I mean, there's stuff that's all the way back from the Civil War that's up there. Yeah. And then we have one that I took when we were in Iraq. Yeah. I was sitting on a rooftop with a machine gun.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You know, there's Vietnam, there's all kinds of stuff. Like cigars, just tobacco in general has kind of been a staple in the military. Yeah. But cigars are definitely one of those, you know, whether it's, you know, we say it with our victory cigar, whether it's a victory or if it's, you know, you're laying somebody down to rest. You know,
which can also be a victory.
Yeah, depending.
Depends on the person, I guess.
You know, but you know, commemorate these events, you know, as a group with cigars. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've heard you guys talk about it before. And I think when you guys had Jazz on this show, he mentioned it about it being the great equalizer in the room and stuff like that. And it's true. You know, like it's a common ground that people can bond over, right? Like you might be a liberal or a conservative, and that guy might be a libertarian or whatever, but we all like cigars. Oh, that's cool. Let's have a conversation about that, and not divide us even more, right? Like it's an opportunity to come together and have a conversation about something with common ground, and maybe even get in a little bit of perspective from somebody else's point of view. Yeah. And that's what's real fucking cool about cigars, right? And thank you to you guys, really, for me, because you guys are the ones that really brought me into understanding the culture more. And
well, before you met us, you probably had a grasp of how to cut a cigar and light a cigar.
I was doing it wrong. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like I was cutting it and it would all unravel all the time. And I still use a V cut, just now it's easy. But you know, when you showed me the
cheater trick on the table,
cheater trick on the table, just the boop thing, and I was like, "Get the fuck, motherfucker!"
Because, you know, my reaction was the same when somebody showed that to me.
I was like,
and I've been cutting cigars for years at that point. Now it's just like, oh,
well, and I would oftentimes use a punch just because like it would be easier. Like, you know, I'm a golfer. And like you know,
take a tee.
You can use that, but I keep a cigar punch in my golf bag too. Yeah, you know, and so I would oftentimes do that, and I would lie to myself and everyone around me and just be like, "No, I like it like this." No, you don't.
You just don't know any better.
I just don't know any better, and I don't want to fuck it up. I want it to look like it's cool. So you know, like
you were acting like you've been there,
trying to, yeah, you know, because you know, golf is one of those other things. You know, business is conducted on the golf course.
Yeah.
End quote. You know, and it's like, I didn't want to, you know, like look like a novice at everything. I'm already bad enough at golf.
Right.
So
I'm not good at golf.
No. You mean whack fuck? Just out there playing whack fuck. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man, it's
but you started going full speed into cigars.
I did
shortly after we moved here to Texas. Because that's right about the time when we all became friends.
Well, so I learned about your brand. I was a fan of the Drinking Bros podcast.
Yeah.
Back when Rocco was on there and stuff. And I learned about your brand through them initially. And then just by happenstance, when you and I met at an event.
Just on a rooftop in San Antonio randomly.
Luckily, I had a bottle of Jameson with me. So that worked out.
It's a key to a lot of hearts.
Right.
I mean, it's worked so far.
It's a solid system, man. And you had cigars.
I did.
And it was like, okay, and then with the inception of the Freedom Friends podcast and everything like that, and you and me becoming buddies and everything. Like, I mean, it's really done a lot for my palate.
Yeah.
When it comes to cigars, as well as like my preferences. I know enough that I can get by. I feel like much less of a novice now. Now it's weird because sometimes I'm the guy in the room that people ask questions to. And I'm like, you're asking, I know I look like John a little bit, but you're asking the wrong guy.
And it's funny, like you bring that up. I remember the first time in a lot of different instances in my life doing things, not just cigar related, where I thought I was the novice. I thought I was a new guy. And then somebody would ask me for advice. And it was just like, you don't want to talk to me about this. I remember I was at a match one time, a long range shooting match.
Sure.
It was actually the first match I ever shot in my entire life. And it's a combination of luck and being hungover. I was shooting really well. And I remember I got done.
Love that combo.
I got done with the stage and I shot really well on that stage and I picked up all my stuff and I'm walking off the line. And the next guy that's walking up is the guy who actually won the match. And he consistently wins long range PRS matches. And as he was walking by me, he's like, hey man, he's like, can I shoot? And what'd you hold for wind? And I was just like, well, what? And he's like, what'd you hold for wind? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like,
it's my first day.
I know. I'm like, what are you asking? I don't know how to answer this. And he's
been like 4 pubes to the right.
Right.
Just that's some weird.
Well, no. And so I told him, and I was just like, I was like, well, I held whatever, like 0.4, 0.6. I can't remember what the fuck it was, but I was like, I held this. He's like, okay, cool. And he gets up there and he just cleans the whole stage. He gets done. He's like, hey, good wind call, man. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. It kind of started back there. I was like, this is my first match I ever shot in, and I know who you are, and you were asking me for advice, and I was just like,
it's intimidating, right? Like it's super intimidating.
But
I can understand that.
Well, it's always good to know when you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you pretend like you know when you don't know, that's way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that whole fake it till you make it thing. And eventually someone's gonna notice.
Yeah.
Somebody
like if
out.
you lie on your resume, eventually it's coming out.
This
man.
this sounds like our first month when we were in the cigar industry. We didn't know anything.
Yeah.
That is very true.
But we didn't claim to know everything.
That is also very true.
You know what though? That little bit of humble mentality probably goes a long way.
Well, I like to think it does. How are you going to be mad at somebody when you assume they should know, but then you ask them something and they say, hey man, I'm not real sure. You can't be mad at that person anymore.
No, because at least they're being straight up.
Yeah.
Say my world, type of thing.
Ultimately, it comes down to, I mean, in any profession or any industry, that is going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
How you handle it depicts on how long you're going to last in an industry and how well your reputation is going to be.
For sure.
And one of the biggest things I know, at least me personally, is if I don't know the answer and I need to know this answer, then my answer is, I don't know, but let me find out and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And then you actually follow through with it.
It's very military-esque, right? Like when you given I remember you get asked like a question by like your sergeant when you were a boot or something. And like the appropriate response was always, I don't know, but I'll find out. And it really does. One, it shows a bit of initiative for that individual, but it also shows a drive to continue to better, right? Like if this is going to be a question that is going to come up often,
right?
I want to be able to give the right answer.
Well, and you as a military leader asking a question that, well, one, you hope they know the answer.
Yeah.
But if they don't, the reason you're asking the questions is to teach.
Yep.
So you can't be mad at them when they say, I don't know.
It's a teachable moment.
Yeah. Unless they've been in for 5 years and they don't know, then you're like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah. If you're like a 5-year deep machine gunner and I tell you to diss an ass at 240 and you fuck it up, it's like, no, fired now.
Right. But also on the that same note, it's if you ask something and the answer is just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that person's answer? But if that parent says, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it takes away the, how come you don't know? Why don't you should know? It's like, oh, okay.
Well, it also shows
let me know when you find out.
It also shows that you're not dismissing the individual who asked the question.
Yeah.
Like you're not just dismissing them, which is a pet peeve of mine. I don't like being like pushed away or like just shunned away or like talked to like I'm stupid or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm curious about something and I ask a question and the individual that I'm asking doesn't know, but they show me that they're going to take the time to figure it out and get back to me, I appreciate that, and it's just really a courtesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first started, there was a lot of, I don't know. Let me find out.
Yeah, man.
And it's honestly, it's because we just didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, and there were questions like now it's a little bit different because, our knowledge base on our products and what we do and where it comes from and all that kind of stuff is, we know damn near all of it. Then, especially like in the first month or two, like we didn't know where the cigars were coming from, and it was like, well, what factory? And we're like, well, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? And it wasn't even like, I'll find out and let you know. It was just like, we're working on some stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like we knew we needed to know that.
Yeah. But we couldn't get the answer.
Well, what is the answer to that question?
Well, we were working through a middleman and we didn't know.
Essentially, it was, we didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better.
I know that middleman.
No, it was
No.
I don't like him.
No, this was before.
Okay.
We didn't know any better, but it was more proof of concept than it was of like, okay, let's go full speed ahead with this.
Sure.
And it was like, oh, wait, we can actually do this. Okay, cool. Like now let's get really serious. Then it was like, oh yeah, well, we can't keep up with what you want. You need this many cigars. We can only give you this many. And we're like, oh, okay. Nope.
Yep.
We're out.
Yeah.
We can find somebody
This
else.
isn't going to work for us, man. Yeah. Well, I think that's a common problem when you get an attractive idea, right? Like if you have a really good idea that people want to gravitate to, and as we've already established, cigars and the military kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And, so when you offer a brand that is so specific about like in a community,
right.
That community, that demand's going to come. And if they can't meet it, well, sorry guys, like I need a supplier who can, man.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise it puts me in a precarious situation, right? Like,
well, it was probably like, I wouldn't ever recommend starting out that way to a new brand. But for us, it worked. And I don't know that we could have started out knowing what we know now, because we would have assumed we needed a lot more money. And we would have assumed that, it would have been a much bigger task than we were probably willing to do at the time.
Yeah.
So,
well, that and like
going into it kind of naive was probably something that actually worked in our benefit.
I feel like it helped us personally also, because it wasn't like we had a predetermined complete product package that was our end goal.
Yeah.
Like our end goal at that time was, hey, I have a cigar and cellophane and my band is on it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, do you have boxes? Wait, we had to put these in boxes?
These things come in
No,
boxes?
we didn't. We didn't have cigar boxes. It wasn't a box of 20. We just had cigars and cellophane with our band on it.
Yeah.
The bands weren't embossed. They weren't fancy. They didn't look nice.
I've seen them.
We didn't,
Seen
but
the
we didn't
originals.
know. We thought they were great. And then we start seeing, then we really start to pay attention to the rest of the stuff in the industry and other brands and stuff like that. And we're like, oh, okay, we got to step our game up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it was just that constantly proving your foxhole. It was the baby steps. Okay, we got the bands. Okay, cool. Now we got this. Okay, now we've got our actual factory.
Where's your grenade sump, sir?
You know what I mean? And then it was like, okay, now we have boxes. Oh shit, we have boxes now. And then it was just like, okay, now we got our first order. Fuck, where do we store this?
When did it feel like, when did you get the, holy shit, we made it, like feeling?
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
He's still not there. He's still working on it. I would say that you guys are,
When that happens,
as far as like,
I would say we're relevant.
Yeah.
I would say we still haven't made it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because what's the end goal for Warfighter?
I don't know. That's a good,
Sell out, make a bunch of money.
when
I don't know. It's it's either pass it to the kids
Well, people always
If-
hate on that,
if-
but it's like, dude, that's the goal of business.
If a giant brand offered us a lot of money, we'd consider it.
Yeah.
You know, but it would be something that, you know, it's not something we seek. It's not something we're trying to do. We're just trying to build a better company every day.
And we love, like, we were just in Virginia doing events.
Yeah. With our boy Mike Goshen at their
at
Historic
Smoke.
Yeah.
And every time we do stuff like that, it makes us realize more and more why we do what we do in this industry. And it's doing these events and having the conversations with these people that we would never talk to. And not saying like they're just weird people or anything like that, but like, when am I going to meet some dude in Culpeper, Virginia?
Some of them are weird people.
No, but it's like, when am I going to go meet these people in Culpeper, Virginia?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like I've been around this earth for a little bit of time and I've never been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I'm sitting down and having hour-long conversations plus with these guys, and to the point where like
Finding out that they're like repeat customers, they're they're buying boxes at a time. You know, they've been a fan of ours for years.
It's awesome.
And it's like, well, that's awesome. It's the first cigar they ever smoked. You know, like stuff like that. You hear that. It's
That's
like,
cool.
Okay, it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
so then it just remotivates,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, yeah, we're doing this for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep going.
That's awesome. That's cool as hell. That's a great feeling too.
Yeah.
I bet. Like when you meet someone who's just genuinely appreciative of your hard work.
So Mike Goshen never smoked a cigar until Noah,
His son,
3 months after he turned 18, bought cigars from us.
he was order number 321.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
His
kidding.
son.
Yeah, I know.
And then got Mike into smoking.
Well, he approached Mike and says, "Hey, I messed up. Don't be mad, Dad, but I bought cigars." Mike's like, "Well, let's go smoke them." But that was, I mean, order number 300.
That was August of 2016.
and now we're
Wow.
at like the 60,000 orders. You know, like
That's cool, man.
And Mike has a cigar shop and his son helps run it.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, it's just, full circle. And then us going out there and doing an event there, I was just like, I had good goosebumps right now. Because it's just
It's
like,
cool.
this is awesome.
Talk about full circle.
I
man.
know.
That's cool as hell.
It's amazing. And Mike's story is phenomenal. He's had some really hard trials, tribulations in his life.
He has.
Things that have happened. And he still keeps pushing on.
Well, I mean, he helped support an event that I was a part of a few months ago. I was working for a nonprofit you guys are well aware of. And we had a golf tournament out there in the DC area, and Mike drove up from Culpeper and like helped run our hole at the tournament.
Yeah.
Him and his son. And just two good guys,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Just good dudes, you know. And I appreciate that guy. He's just a classy dude, man.
Yeah.
I like him.
Speaking of when we were up at the event in Virginia, the Historic Smoke, I hope that we have other brand or shop owners that listen to this show, because what happened there is something
it was
that I've
amazing.
never seen happen before. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So Mike has a shop, right? And it's typically just him. Open to close every day that he's open. He's there. He's running it. His son helps out, stuff like that. Well, he became friends with.
he used to work.
He used to work also, and is very good friends with a shop owner that's about 15, 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Maybe a half hour away from his shop. And a guy named Bob. And what's it called? Warthog? No, fuck. I'll think of it.
Hogshead.
Hogshead is the name of the other shop.
Okay.
And so Mike's like, yeah, he's like, Bob's going to come down. He's going to help, run the register during the event. And I'm like, cool. I don't know who Bob is, but this is going to be awesome. He's like, oh, Bob, he owns a shop up the street. I was like, what?
So they have the same POS system. And so
Yeah.
the other shop owner is working for Mike.
Running his register throughout the whole event. So Mike can sit there and talk with the customers like we're doing and do
Like,
the
how
sales.
fucking cool is that?
Dude, the world needs more Bobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so and at the end of the night, I went to Bob and I'm like, you don't know how much I appreciate this. And I'm like, this is something that I've never seen in the industry. I know shop owners that are friends that help each other out and things like that.
They hang out in each
They will
other's-
come
yeah.
to an event, but they don't offer to work the register. And then in the conversations, we found that Mike has done it with Bob also. Bob's had events and Mike's gone up and helped out and ran registers and things like that at his shop. I'm like, the relationship that you two guys, the working relationship that you two guys have, I'm like, if more people in this industry did this,
So,
oh my God,
And if
dude,
you're a shop owner and you think that you're running a competition, right? And you think the customers don't go to both shops, you're wrong.
Yeah, they go everywhere.
But if your customers go to the other shop and see you two working together, come to your shop, see you two working together, that's how you win customers for life.
But that in like
100%.
The elephant in the room is gone.
Yeah.
There is no like, oh, well, I was just down there the other day and I don't really want to let Bob know because Mike, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They appreciate that you go back and
they're
forth.
building the cigar community as a whole.
Exactly.
And they're building business that way.
Dude, more people need to do that, man, in every industry.
Yeah.
Right? Like I used to see it a lot you see it really bad in the nonprofit world, like they like veteran nonprofits is a good example of this. Everybody's like they're out for themselves because it's pretty cutthroat out there and it's hard to get money and donations and stuff. And I can understand that, right? But so oftentimes they forget about the bottom line and the mission, which is
the veteran.
The veteran. You're supporting a veterin or whatever, right? Like, or whatever you are supporting.
I've run into issues with that. It's like, hey, I have these vets, but I got linked up them through a different nonprofit. Mm-hmm. But your nonprofit offers something that this one doesn't. Can I send them your way?
Or even if it's similar for sakes.
And they're like, well, that's just like us supporting another nonprofit. I'm like, no, you guys are supporting the veterans.
Yeah. It's about the vet.
And it's just like they everything that you require in your program, they meet those requirements. But just because they're affiliated with somebody else, like, why is this an issue now?
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
Pretty sure that his DD214 looks the same as his,
right?
His and hers. And
yeah.
What the hell, man? Yeah, that's so weird.
But no,
it always bothered me.
Seeing that at Historic Smoke and watching all that and learning the dynamics between, the local shop owners and the customer base that goes in there. It was phenomenal. It really is.
That's cool.
And it goes to show that if you're a shop owner and you're not trying to build a community in your shop, you are just there purely to sell
or
cigars.
just a community in your area
But you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like you build that community and it's self-sufficient. They take care of their own and they support you and they bring more people in to support you.
Sure.
And it just makes it so much, you walk into a shop and there's conversations. It's not a TV on and nobody's saying a word. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we had a TV on once and it literally got to the point, hey, can you turn the volume down? We're trying to talk here. Oh, sorry.
That's the best, man.
You know what I mean? And then eventually the TV just turned off.
Yeah.
Like nobody was looking. Yeah. It didn't matter. There's sports games and all kinds of stuff going on. People that care, you know? And I'm like, I love this. This is so awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good shit. That's good stuff.
Now, to be fair, they had the Warfighter podcast on and I was talking over myself and that felt really
weird.
That's
really
probably
weird.
awkward. Yeah. You're like, hey, can you turn that idiot on the screen down?
Yeah. At one point, one of the guys was like, they're right here. We don't need to have them up there.
A little weird.
Yeah.
That's Goshen, though. He probably had that by design.
No, it was early in the day. So
we were talking about something and we put it on just to refer back to whatever we were talking about in conversation. Then people started showing up and it was just on in the background.
Yeah.
And that's how it was just like, okay, just get rid of that shit.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, they did like it's called the Smoking Shields, and it's a group kind of all over the United States, but it's all law enforcement veteran group. So there was cops from all over the place. One of the guys was a state patrol guy, and
oh my God,
he was a sniper. I'm like, oh, cool, man. That's kind of what I used to do and teach, and so I'm like, I asked him about his equipment because a lot of agencies, the police agencies, have shit equipment.
Oh, it's the truth bad.
So he's like, oh man, we're pretty well set up. I'm like, cool. What do you got?
What area was he out of?
Virginia
State.
Somewhere in Virginia State.
So he's like, he brings in his equipment and it is all top of the line shit. I'm like, dude, I have no critiques for you.
What was he running?
An Accuracy International, Night Force scope,
okay,
all the good lasers, night vision, thermos,
cans, Thunder Beast cans.
Yeah.
Oh,
Knight's Armament SPR with a Surefire.
I have no advice for you.
Yeah.
Like you guys are crazy.
It's like volleyball uniforms. We have no notes.
Yeah. Right. None whatsoever. It's like even on his rifle was set up great.
Yeah.
And then even like his AR, and I'm like, I can find something on this. And I started looking at everything, and I'm like,
there was no fat. to trim.
Yeah.
What trigger
And
do you
then-
have on it?
Well, and that was the thing. I looked and it looked like a mil spec, and I'm like, oh, I think I got this. And then I leaned over to look, and I saw the little G on it. I'm like, fuck, he's even got a Geisley trigger in this. I'm like,
That's what you did to me the other day.
did.
You did the same thing to me. He looked at mine and was like, oh, it's a Geisley. Yeah.
well, because they look like a regular mil spec.
It does.
You know?
It
And I was like, if
I
you're-
thought it was too when I first picked that up.
until
I
you
was
squeeze it, and you're like, ooh, this is
I was like,
nice.
that's different. That's different.
But yeah, so we talked to him for probably 45 minutes with both of his weapons sitting on the table.
Yeah.
And so as all the customers are walking in, they're walking right by us with these guns. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, this is a raffle item for tonight. Make sure you go buy some cigars.
That's how you get them, man. That's butts and seats right there, dude.
But everybody who was there was a cop.
Yeah.
so
And they
it
were
didn't
all
matter.
laughing like, yeah, I don't need that.
I got the same thing at home, bro. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun.
But no, it was a great event.
No.
And then Mike took us out to drive tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to drive tanks.
We went to this place called the Tank Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, they have a great collection.
It was awesome.
Well, that's what you were kind of explaining to me. And,
Yeah,
and
so-
I'm sure we'll get into it on the other shit
Right.
as well.
So it's this guy. His name's Alan. I'll just leave it at that.
He's 90.
He's 90, so he's starting to. They're eventually going to start selling off some of the items that he has.
Alan has quit giving a fuck.
and
He's
then
90.
the rest of the stuff they don't sell off is going to be put in a museum.
Nice.
But everything that he has, except for maybe, and he's probably had 60, 70 tanks there.
Oh, at least, yeah. It was a lot.
I think there might have been 4 that weren't running. Every other one was completely restored. Like,
some of them were one-off experimentals.
oh my, yeah.
Like-
One of them is like, what was it? Serial number 3 or something like
The
that.
Sherman?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a Sherman?
Serial number
number
3.
Bruh.
Yeah.
I think he had 4 Shermans.
He did. One of them was a super Sherman, or what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the super Sherman.
Look at Justin's face. He's even like, what?
Yeah. It was nuts. But I can
That's
tell
so
you,
sick.
I can tell you,
Super
though,
cool, man.
serial number 3, the Sherman, serial number 3,
Yeah.
I cannot fit in it. I can fit in the turret,
Yeah.
barely.
But
But
that-
my feet hit the ground and my head.
Driver's hatch was,
Driver's hatch, nope.
you couldn't fit in it.
Dude,
Nope. Justin.
might be able to fit in it.
Dude, people were littler back then, man.
So, but I could fit. Then we got in a.
It's GMOs, man. Too
Then
many
we got in a Stewart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there was 2. There was a driver's hatch, and then there was the whatever gunner's hatch or whatever's next to it.
TC. probably.
TC. And so we were talking to the guy. So they have a volunteer there. He's been volunteering there for like 20 years.
State police guy.
State police, awesome guy. And he started off with like, this is cool. How can I help? To the point where like he's like, hey, can I borrow this for the weekend? And they're like, yeah, here's a $250,000 tank. How are you going to get it there? He's like, I'll figure out my own transpo. And they're like, cool, man, just whatever you need. And they just give him a tank for the weekend. I'm like,
So he goes,
bro,
does parades.
yeah,
Bro,
right,
this is what we need.
I know.
Like, we need it. Man.
yeah.
You
And
think
so-
it'd be much more prevalent here in Texas, too? Like, you think there would
Well,
be
it's
guys
funny.
like
So that
around?
place and Drive Tanks in Texas,
Uh-huh.
the horse trade.
Yeah.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they know each other.
Oh, okay.
There's only
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 in the whole United States with collections like that. So
Sure.
Of course they know each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You meet,
They-
conventions and such.
Cheney, the guy in Vegas, Battlefield Vegas.
Yep.
Yep.
He's one of them. Like
Yeah.
they all
Yeah.
work together.
Yep.
But yeah.
Then we got to go for a ride in a FV 432,
Which is a British armored personnel
I was
carrier.
going to say, that's an APC. Yeah.
and that was pretty cool.
Those are fun.
But they had like the GI Joe tank,
Yeah.
but there's only one of them.
There's-
No, I think there was like
There's 2. I think they said they made 3. There's 2 in civilian.
yeah, and so he has one of them, and you literally drive with the joystick, and there's tube TVs, old school
From
tube
like
TVs.
1986.
That's how
Nice.
you see where you're going as a driver, and then as the gunner, you use one of those to aim.
What?
Yeah,
It was insane. It's the GI Joe toy. If you can find a GI Joe tank,
I
toy.
remember I had it.
Right?
I had the tank. Like,
it was
yeah.
super cool. They had like
I was the
he
envy
had,
of the neighborhood 'cause I had that tank.
prototype amphibious tanks.
Yeah, they were working on a Marine amphibious contract,
Yep.
and the program got scrapped. So the company just said, "Here, you want this?"
Yep.
He's got EFV,
yeah.
an expeditionary fighting
Yeah,
vehicle.
yeah.
That's what I worked on Aberdeen.
Yeah. He has one.
That was I was on that program when it scrapped.
Yeah, he
Oh, he probably has the one that you were working on.
I'm licensed. Well, we had like 9 of them, but yeah, I'm licensed. I'm one of very few people
Right.
licensed on that. Well, it's got the 30 millimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The chain gun. Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yep.
Bushmaster chain gun. Yeah.
it's huge.
Remember when I was telling you that I'm like one of 4 Marines that were authorized depot level maintenance on that?
You know, the funny
That's
part
the
is
right-
when you were
that's one of
telling
mine.
when you were telling that story, we were like, okay, dude. You know what I mean? And then now we saw the tank, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah. Like that's what
What was some of the other
that's
stuff?
funny.
They had a Russian T-72
with all the
with everything that was
Yeah,
on it.
that's
and
rad.
they bought it when Germany fell. They bought it from East Germany's government direct.
Fucking brilliant.
And the Russians are pissed that he has it.
I bet. Dude, that's a problem with Intel, man.
But he lets a lot of they do a lot of
CIA comes
3-letter agencies come down to do training on the property. Like, so one of them, right? They had this I can't remember what unit it was, but it was an agency of some sort.
But you're saying it backs up to Quantico.
Well, no, but they heloed in to run whatever op they wanted to run, but nobody told them what they were heloing into. And so they start clearing everything, right? And they come around this little tree-lined corner, and there's an open tank barn. It's just a roof, but you look in, and there's probably, I don't know, 50 tanks underneath this tank barn. And they come around the corner, and they're like, oh, whoa, full stop. You know, they start reporting everything in. You know what I
They
mean?
start asking if the tanks are in play.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, because you said it.
The property borders Quantico.
I mean, you got to think Quantico's got
Quantico's
a lot
huge,
of stuff.
though.
It is. It's massive.
Yeah.
It's massive. Like it's a
I think
large,
they said it covers like 4 counties or something.
Oh yeah, it's the flagpole of the Marine Corps, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's the flagpole, right? Like, but that's also where the FBI training academy is on
Yep.
Quantico.
Yep.
I know that the CIA and DEA both utilize training areas out there for stuff. Like, because I've been working. In my last unit in the Marines, I ran training for a reserve battalion, and we used to have to go down to a Camp Upshur, which is on Quantico. And it's like the reserve training area.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we would have to be like, hey, it's not available this week. There's an agency there. And it's like, oh, okay. Type of stuff. So we used to have to schedule around them all the time.
But there's some really like cool stuff there too. Like they had a fire truck from
9/11.
from the World Trade Centers from 9/11.
What?
Yeah. And it was so it was actually kind of a pretty famous fire truck because there's pictures of it going into the trade centers before, when the planes hit, and then the entire crew ended up losing their lives on 9/11. And so
stroll through it.
and then there's a police car that they had. They have some cement beams and iron beams, I-beams from the towers and stuff. And all of this is going to eventually be put into a museum that they have. It's just that, they have to prep things and get things ready and static displays set up and all that kind of stuff.
For sure. Dude, they are jammed in there.
Oh man, yeah. Like the way that they parked some of these tanks, like they have a enclosed barn. And
Scott, you look like a kid in a candy store,
was.
bro. You look like you look so happy.
so the cool thing about this, and I appreciate Mike for setting this up. Mike set this up, and he's like, "Hey, I have this idea. Do you think it's going to be fun?" And I'm like, "This is going to be amazing." And he's like, "Okay, cool." And then I told him, I was like, he's like, "Should we tell Scott?" And I was like, "I don't think we should tell Scott." And he's like, "Okay, cool. We'll just keep this just you and I. Nobody else knows, and we'll just go from there." I'm like, done. Leading up to it, Scott had a wedding that was very close to the dates that we were out there.
Yeah.
To the point where Scott flew back to a different airport so he could go to the wedding from Virginia instead
That's
of coming back here. And I was like, leading up to it, I'm like, I need to know if you're in or out, man. Like, are you doing this or not? I'm like, Mike's got something planned for you. So you should really be on this trip.
That's what I want.
Oh yeah.
What's that one?
The sidecar.
Oh,
That was a knockoff though.
Dude, I don't care if it's a knockoff. That's the only way I'm getting back on twos. Is
it's on threes.
on threes, man. Like that's the only way I'm ever going back to motorcycles is if I get a sidecar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want it.
But we did really good at making sure Scott didn't know what we were doing until I missed the turn. And he looked at the GPS and it had the little pin on the map and it said Tank Farm. I was like, fuck. Yep.
Why you gotta be so Snoopy, bro?
No, it was on the dash on the car. It was on CarPlay. I was just like, oh.
He's like, wait, what is this? What is Tank Farm?
Right. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, yep. But yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. It was
That's a cool experience, though.
and then the customers of at the shop were awesome guys. We talked about it briefly earlier too. But a huge fan, of Historic Smoke and the people that go in there and everything that they do.
Well, you sent me a picture of the shop while we were there, or while you were there.
Yeah,
the shop looks great.
Yeah,
man. Like it looks
he's got
really
nice
cool. Yeah.
He used to be an old
Flower shop.
And so it's very, very bright. Lots of windows and natural light and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was really cool.
Nice.
And then we got a chance to meet up with our old platoon sergeant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's he's our platoon sergeant, but he got out as a command sergeant major.
He was my squad leader for a while.
Yeah, Scott knew him as an E6.
Nice.
And then, but his wife is a lieutenant colonel, works at the Pentagon. So we didn't know where he was, and they just happened to still be in the area. So
Attaboy.
we linked up with him,
Good for him.
had breakfast that ended up being like 2.5 hours.
Sure.
That was really nice.
You guys at a Waffle House while you were out there?
No, we did not.
Got to, man.
No.
Come on now.
I told so one of my favorite things about traveling, especially in this industry, is like we were getting ready one day to try to find lunch. And I was like, look, I told Mike and his son, I was like, I want something that's local, something I can't get somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys have here that is home to you guys? That's good. I was like, because that's what I appreciate. Like, I can go get Burger King, Taco Bell. I can go get whatever chain restaurant anywhere in the world.
There's some good spots in that area.
So we went to this little mom and pop's corner store in the middle of this tiny little town. Deli thing.
Yeah.
And
Probably an amazing sandwich.
it was really, really good. I'm like, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, dude.
And then one of the best meals we had was this taco truck.
Oh my God.
They didn't even speak English to take our order.
Yeah. Thank God that
It was amazing.
Thank God we've gone down to Central America a bunch.
Yeah.
Because like I literally had to use my broken Spanish.
All
to
you need is
make
your
my order.
nombres, bro. If you know your nombres, you're fine.
And that's it. I had to use my broken Spanish, and then we got the order across. It was perfect. And I was like, and that food is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Justin, you had some cigar questions from the listeners, I believe.
Yeah, so we got one, and their question is, how have you learned to grow the business and pivoted from the mistakes and failures?
Well, I would say we pivot from the mistakes and failures is easy because every one we did was expensive.
Very expensive.
So that was an easy one. We just didn't do it twice.
This is actually the guy who wrote this question is like Drew Estates' business.
Right? They're just taking notes right now. They're like, oh, okay.
What are they doing, man? They're gross crazy.
And how we grew the business, I mean, I feel like we still have some growing to do, but we just didn't quit. I don't know.
They hired you. That's how they grew it.
That helped. It did.
I feel like growth in this industry it's interesting.
Well, there's two ways to do it.
The easiest way to do it is to focus on your products and tell your story.
I don't know if that's the easiest way.
Well,
That's a way.
If you don't have good products, it doesn't matter how fast you want to grow. Eventually, the customer base is going to be like, I'm not smoking that.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can dump as much as you want to. And there's been companies in this industry that have done it. And we've seen it. They started after we have, and we see where they're at now. And we thought they were going to the moon.
It was a money dump.
Yep. We thought they were going to the moon.
All they did was flush it down the toilet.
And then the product didn't stand up. And then that company is still kind of back at square one, except they're just short a shitload of money now. You know,
It's unfortunate when you see that, right?
no, but
At the
it's
same time,
depends.
you do reap what you sow, though.
yeah.
It depends because if it's a big corporate out of the box or out of the gate industry and you see them do it and it doesn't work, you kind of like,
You're like, huh, told you.
yeah, like good try.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, what I've seen, some have made it work.
Yeah.
Some people have come in already wealthy. And so this is their retirement, their fun gig,
Or passion
their
project,
passion
whatever.
project, right? And they'll put a bunch of money in. They can afford out of the gate to have all the sales reps. They cherry pick them from the big companies, and they have a whole team, and they set it off, and it kind of works, right?
Sure.
And so you see that, and then you see other people. Like there's quite a few companies in our shoes
Yeah.
that it's just you have to pace growth, and you have to just bootstrap and go,
that's it.
and
Like Scott and I don't come from money at all.
I couldn't tell.
Not one bit. You know what I mean? And So we also don't have financial investors. We don't have money men that own a portion of the company that control what we do, which is it's a great thing. But the downfall is we don't have a money man. We don't have somebody to be like,
well, we don't have that instantaneous growth, right?
yeah,
We have to manage it, you know?
Because if tomorrow we woke up and we had $2 million, we could do all kinds of shit.
Sure.
But we don't have $2 million. And we're not about to make the sacrifices in order to bring that to the table, because it's going to hinder everything that we want to do.
So a company our size either has cash in the bank and no product, or we have product on the shelf and no cash in the bank.
Yeah. When you're growing, you're broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And if you're not broke, you're not really growing. You know what I mean?
Well, it costs money to spend money.
Yeah.
Or no,
it costs money to make money.
costs money to make money. Costs money to spend money too.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, on the outside looking in, I'm the worst example, because as you've pointed out many, many times,
you have adult money.
I have adult money,
And
but I'm a
you're
child.
a kid.
I am the perfect example. Like we always make fun of it, but the one wheel, my one wheel is a good example of that. But
Well, I appreciate that you looked at your one wheel as an investment.
I did.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
How's that paying off?
So, dividends, actually. Worked out, man. It's fucking worked out, dude. I love that thing. Dave's seen it. Dave's seen that thing save me so much time. Yeah, man. It's me and my weird hobbies, though.
Yeah.
I collect hobbies.
And the older you get, the more expensive those hobbies become.
Bro, you're talking to a skydiver and scuba diver, man.
I feel your pain.
I know. We dive together. Yeah. I know you do. Or
Yeah.
we have dove together.
Yeah.
And I saw that you guys had Nick from Warfighter.
We did. There was a
the show.
couple episodes ago. We had Nick with Warfighter Scuba.
Yeah, he's such a good dude, man.
Yep.
That's a great program.
It really, really is.
That is a great program. That was funny. Speaking of cigars, when I got down there to do that,
Yeah.
because unlike you, I am shitty at dodgeball and was one of the.
So you actually qualified for their program.
actually qualified for their program. Yeah. I'm not very good at ducking. And
It's a Purple Heart reference for our listeners
Yeah.
who aren't in the know.
And Mike is 3?
3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at ducking. So the crazy thing is I only, all the times that I got hurt or wounded or whatever, I only ever sought medical attention 3 times. And that's the 3 Purple Hearts. I would have, this is a weird flex, man. It's a very weird flex, but I had a doctor tell me one time when I was doing my final physical, he was like, if you would have went to doc every time, you would be in the history books of having the most Purple Hearts of any service member in the history of America. I think the record's 8 and I would have 10. It was like, damn.
If World War III, you were definitely on my fire team. Too.
Yep, 100%.
And somehow I have all my fingers and toes.
No, I know.
Let's see if
Can't kill me, bitches.
if I was to set up the World War III veteran squad,
Yeah.
I would have Mikey.
Yeah.
I would have a sniper. I would have 1 machine gunner and 3 medics.
And the medics are all for you, but
Yeah, they're all hanging
but
around.
nobody else is getting hit.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's just
It's
me.
just you.
It's just me just
Yep.
just
So
juking.
there's going to be like a hide in the machine gunners, and then like 20 meters to the right is going to be Mikey.
Yeah.
And all the fire is going to be directed over here, and these guys are just picking
And
everybody off.
all 3 docs are behind me, just like hunkered in. Yeah.
Well, they're AGs until they are needed elsewhere.
That's truth. That's truth. Carry my ammo, fucker. Yeah. But when I got down there, one of the first things they were like, "Hey, we got cigars. You want any?" And I was like, "Yeah, I love cigars." And of course, out come the Warfighters, and I was like, "Oh, I know these. All right, yeah. Take this one." Snatched my 7.62 or whatever, and I was like, "Hey." But recently I was at an event, and one of my buddies, I was at a wedding, and one of my buddies asked me, and he was like, "So be honest with me." He's like, "Is Warfighter really good, or do you just rep it because they're your buddies?" And I was like, no, they're a premium tobacco company, man. Like, it's very, very good. And I was like, I just got lucky that they're my buddies. Like,
Well,
I was like,
or maybe we wouldn't be your buddies if our cigars were shit.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in that. If you don't put out a good product in a veteran space, you're not going to be around long.
Yeah.
you guys are still good dudes. You still be my buddy.
Well, would we be good dudes if we put out a shitty product?
Well, if you did it, if you put it out on purpose,
Oh, okay.
if you were like, I like it, and I'm putting it out because I like it, I'd be like, okay, it's a product that he enjoys.
Okay.
Like you're a Rosado guy.
Yeah.
It's a little too much ass on the back of that for me, right? Like I'm not a big fan of the Rosado. Doesn't mean I'm gonna shit all over your product. like I'm a little weaker on the. I like mine a little bit less bold, right? Except for your unbanded San Andreas.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite cigars.
San Andreas is just so good.
That's a phenomenal cigar. That is so good, and it's become like a. For being as bold as it is, it's an everyday smoke still.
Yeah.
And that's so cool, man.
It'll
Like,
come back banded one of these days.
one of these days.
We did a little brainstorm on that on this trip.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
It's
Things in the works.
yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Awesome. I like that.
Yep.
Same sort of program
Ish.
ish.
We'll talk offline about it.
Okay.
We're still in the beginning stages.
We don't want to let the cats out of the bag now, you know?
No, I mean, we let the cat out of the bag that we're rebranding that cigar, but we just have to, we're trying to do it in a way that it is something that will make a difference. The meaning behind what we're doing with it and to make sure that the story is told how it needs to be told.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, like he was asking me, he's like, are they actually good? And I was like, dude, they're phenomenal. And I was like, you know me for a while. And he was like, yeah. I was like, do I ever put my name on something that I don't back? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, there you go. And I used his company as an example because he works for one of our sponsors for the other show.
Yeah.
And I was like, would I be repping your shit if you made dog shit? And he was like, no, you wouldn't. And I was like, well, there you go. Like, there's your answer, man. Like, and he was like, all right, cool. Like, so hopefully I got a lifelong fan.
I was actually told
him too
this past weekend in Virginia by somebody who's been in the industry for a while, and whether on the retail side or just as a smoker. And he was talking about our night shift, and he goes, "This is the best underpriced cigar I've ever smoked in my life."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And he's like, "I can't believe you're only charging that much for it." I was like, "Well, I could charge you more if you want." He's like, "No." He's like,
just make it specific for him.
Yeah, right. But I told him, I was like,
$11 for everybody else, 14 for you, sir.
I was like, I really appreciate that. I was like, I do.
Yeah.
Hey, boys, let's give us 1 second. We ran out of space for recording, so we'll be right back. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. I do have another question for you guys.
Hit us.
This one is from Six Pack.
Because I'm definitely also a pro.
Okay, well, then you can answer this one.
Okay.
It's from Six Pack. Said, loving the 50 Garrison Oscuro Maduro. So far, it's my favorite of all y'all's blends. Would love to understand what the Oscuro Maduro means in addition to all the other terms. Thanks.
This dude just bought Minutemen. that's how I got introduced to the 50 Garrison. It was Minutemen, right?
So
that
what
was
is
the first one you guys had?
Yep,
Minutemen.
that was it.
Yeah.
So what does Oscuro Maduro mean?
Dark. I have no idea. I don't know, but I'll find out.
You're right. You're half right. So Oscuro means dark.
Okay.
Maduro means either ripe or mature, depending on the context you're using it in. But they both kind of mean the same. But it typically means ripe. So it's a dark, ripe leaf, meaning like it's an aged. Maduro typically means it's an aged or darker wrapper.
Darker
leaf.
the berry, riper the juice.
And Oscuro just means it's more dark.
Okay.
But Oscuro can be used and not just in coordination with the Maduro type of an aging process. Like you can have a Habano Oscuro, which is the night shift.
Yeah.
And so it's a dark Habano leaf. And that has to do with the aging process and stuff like that. And so essentially what it does is the longer that you let, it's kind of like caramelizing onions is an easy way to explain it.
Now you're talking language that I understand.
Right. So the longer that you ferment or cook or heat or age, the more sugars, natural sugars that are going to come out of it, the more the flavors are going to change. An onion on a cigar, the longer that you process that tobacco, the darker it's going to get, and the more oils are released, and the more flavors you can get out of that cigar.
Yeah. Because at one point or another,
flavors.
they're all green.
They all start green.
Yeah.
If they're brown on the plant, you got problems.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good plant. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a leaf is a natural thing, and it turns green because of the chlorophyll that's in the leaf, and that process gets rid of that chlorophyll.
Yeah.
Or else you get candela, which is a minimally processed leaf, and we do have some candela in our night shift.
You do?
It's a ring right around the cap. That's it.
That way you guys don't have to smoke it.
Yeah. Some people like.
I'm assuming that is that a thing? Like,
Yeah,
can
yeah.
you smoke Candela cigars?
So you remember the filthy hooligan I gave you?
the St. Patty's barber pole.
Yeah,
It's got green on it.
that's right.
candela.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. It's too bitter
Okay.
for me.
Yeah.
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 It literally a lot of people say it tastes like hay
I mean, that makes sense to me.
or grass, or they have that they call it barnyard, which is just cow shit. That's when people say, "Oh, there's a hint of barnyard." It's like, yeah, it's a hint of like manure, like shit.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. It's just that certain leaves have certain flavor profiles and stuff.
Yeah, there's maybe a little more to barnyard than shit.
There is, but
Like-
that's where I go in my brain.
Yeah. Like it's a mixture of shit, dirt, and feed.
Yeah.
It's locked in. It's shit. It's locked in my brain now. Like if I ever hear someone in the context of a cigar say, "Oh, it's got barnyard," I'm gonna be like, "Poop. That's poop."
But it's not like straight up feces. It's like that kind of manure-ish. Like, I don't know what else to say. And it's usually like on a dry draw or something like that. You don't really get that off of like while you're smoking.
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes.
But yeah.
Well, I remember that barber pole you gave me though. I remember that cigar, and it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I was shit faced because it was St. Patrick's
You
Day.
enjoyed it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Not my favorite.
I remember when
Well, I like your mentality when it comes to cigars. Like, you always get asked, "What's your favorite cigar?" And it's your next cigar,
No, it's the one I have not yet.
or the one you haven't had yet, right?
or the free
Yeah.
one.
Or the free.
That's John's.
That's
He's Jewish.
ish.
Ish.
It's the wrong half. We found that out.
It's the free cigar half.
Yeah, the free. Yeah, that's what it is.
It's $10. I don't know why you want $8 for that thing. It's not even worth $6. I'll give you $4.
Dad, can I borrow $100? $50? You think $20 grows on trees?
But yeah. So that's a Cigar Maduro.
You want to know what podcast isn't anti-Semitic? The Freedom Prince. You should watch that one.
Trying to get us canceled.
We've established that's impossible.
What's another term the layman might not know
For cigars?
for cigars?
Um,
So there's all the size terms.
Vitola.
A vitola, that's a good term.
I don't know that term.
Vitola is the shape of the cigar, not the size.
It's not like
Right?
the ring.
So it's
gauge.
not. It's a different Vitola doesn't mean it's. I mean, it could be.
It could be. Yeah.
But typically, a Vitola means it's a whether it's a
Like-
torpedo or a Salomon or a Lancero.
Well, it doesn't necessarily, because you could have a Robusto, a Toro, and those are different vitolas.
yeah,
Sizes and shapes.
yeah.
Okay. So like if I was to ask, what's the Vitola?
Then
Oh,
I would tell you Toro, Torpedo, or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, that's not that common. But it is another term that's used.
Because you could just use
Yeah.
what size is it?
Yeah,
Yeah. But that won't necessarily tell you if it's a torpedo or 'cause
The-
then I would tell you it's a 5x50 or a, you know what I mean? But it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily encompass the shape
Yeah.
of the cigar. So,
Okay.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Like, I know like Toro and Robusto and things like that. Like that took me a while to kind of
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I just didn't understand the sizes,
Yeah.
the
And
different names of sizes.
The cigar
right?
industry is complicated. Like somebody can call a Corona, and it's not a universal size.
Because some people call it a petit Corona.
Yeah. Or then there's double Corona.
That's different.
Yeah.
So it's different than a Corona or
Right.
a petite Corona.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people like this is a Toro, right? But a Toro can range anywhere from a 50 to a 54, maybe 56 ring gauge.
Yeah.
Or 48.
Yeah.
maybe.
And some of them call them a Toro and they're 5.5 inches. Some call it a Toro and they're 6 3/4. So ours is 6.
Yeah.
You know, there are like old school traditional, a Toro is this size, Robusto is this size, this is that, da, 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 da. You know, but it's kind of like reinventing the wheel. Everybody puts their own little spin on it.
Like who decides? Like, is there a governing body?
No.
That's
So
like, this
now,
is
now
like-
here's the cool thing, right? So one of our sizes, we call a Minuteman.
Yeah.
And that's our 4x44.
Yeah.
We call it a Minuteman.
Yeah. Or a dog walker. I've heard it
Yeah.
called
Yep.
a dog
So-
walker.
but that's a dog walker is a slang term, but that slang term is based off of a company who made that cigar and called it a dog walker.
Right.
And then it just kind of stuck with that size of a cigar.
Sure.
But there's other,
Another confusion that
Like
I don't like to hear is when people get the wrapper and the band mixed up. You know, the band of the cigar is the label, right?
yeah.
The
Yeah.
band.
And
And the wrapper is the
The actual leaf.
Is the
leaf.
leaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've heard, are you going to take that wrapper off? Like,
No,
no,
I
it's
smoke it.
kind of important to my cigar.
Pretty important to the cigar.
So,
Yep.
so I've heard people call the wrapper the cellophane and take it out of the wrapper.
That's probably like a regional thing, though, right?
I
Like,
think it's just new people.
Yeah.
You haven't been around it a lot.
But I mean, and that happens in every industry,
Yeah.
though. You look at the firearm industry.
yeah, a bullet, a shell.
I
case-
got a clip.
Yeah.
I went through 2 clips.
yeah,
that shit drives me insane.
But you know what?
Cartridge and
If
shell.
you didn't join the military
yeah.
and you didn't learn
Oh,
about
dude.
firearms,
Even before then, I knew the difference between that.
but if you didn't learn about it, it's not like it's like blasphemy.
Yeah.
But once
Sure.
you know, you're like, oh, there's no mistake between these.
Well, like even now that I've been around the firearm industry and I've been around like that world for a very, very long time, even now, like I hear people who are part of the industry utilizing those terms sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Like there's one, I'll just say it. I think he's a fucking idiot. I won't say his name, but I think he's a moron online. And he acts like an asshole, and he's a firearm guy. And some of the things he says, I'm like, you're teaching inappropriately because
Yeah.
people are watching your content.
Yeah.
And you're teaching inappropriate
But-
stuff.
Now the downfall, and this might be a rabbit hole going down right now,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to bet that some of those guys that are doing that and are making content are doing it to increase engagement in their content.
I think so.
They know better,
sometimes. Yeah.
but they also know that it's a trigger,
yeah.
yeah.
that it will generate engagement.
Like I used to own silencer headquarters.
Yeah.
Is silencer a proper term or is suppressor a proper term?
Good point.
On the ATF form, it's called a silencer.
Or a
It's true.
suppressor, depending on how the manufacturer registered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So
Well, I know I have like Form 4s. Some of them say silencer, some of them say suppressor.
and it all comes down to how the manufacturer registered it in the system. And if you submitted it with the other word,
Curious which
they
one
would
I had.
deny it, even though it's
In my opinion, it's a universal term.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't silence it. Yeah, but that's what they've called them since,
forever.
from Maxim.
yeah.
Put out a silencer.
It wasn't a Maxim suppressor.
Yeah.
It was a Maxim silencer.
He was the first. Sorry, guys. So,
Yep.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can go through all of our forms too, and it's the same thing. Some are silencer, some suppressor.
This one's a silencer.
It used to drive me insane because I did all the forms at the gun store, and I was just like, I wish they just all got on the same page.
That one's also a silencer.
Yep.
Damn.
so yeah. I mean, as far as terms, I mean, there's a ton of them in the cigar industry.
Really?
We're not going to go through all of them, but size wise, just pull up a cigar size chart, and
Yeah.
you can learn that way. And
Yeah.
it's
Well, then you talk about like ring gauges and things like that, and like I didn't know what a Lancero was
yeah,
when I started smoking cigars, right? I had no idea. I remember, I think we were at your old shop
Mhm.
and we were recording a show one night, and Jazz had one.
I think that's when we got
no,
It was
we
bef-
had,
it was-
Laceros in.
It was
we had
bef-
ours in Nebraska.
it was before you guys had expanded the Lancero line.
I thought that was only the 50 Garrison,
Yeah, you might be right.
and then we brought everything else in after.
Yeah.
I think. I can't remember.
I don't really remember. But then but learning about how the size and shape of a cigar kind of changes the profile
Yeah.
is really interesting to me, right? Like I'm a fan of the 556 shade. Your Connecticut shade, I think, is a great shade, right? I think it's a great cigar. You put that in a Lancero, and you even said the most surprising thing that you.
I had zero expectations for our
none.
That thing's amazing.
Yeah.
A Connecticut shade Lancero. And when you tell somebody who's in the cigar industry that, like, you know, oh, what's your favorite Lancero? And it's like, oh, it's a Connecticut shade. They look at you weird. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's amazing, man. Like, and they're like, this kid's out of his mind, right? But it really was, like, you know. But I guess that comes down to like that R&D. Like, you know, you want to make an omelet. How are you gonna make the omelet? You know, you got to crack the eggs. You got to find out, right? And that innovation is what people, I think, in a lot of industries are scared of, taking the steps towards innovation.
I think they're afraid of failure.
Absolutely. Well, it's because it's how much money does it invest to create?
Yeah.
But if you don't fail, you don't learn.
So yeah, 100% agree.
And if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough.
You want a good example? Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You know,
right?
like that dude, like, throw a dart in the air, you're going to stick on something that
He's like, oh, we're going to send the spaceship. Oh, it blew up. Okay, cool. We'll fix it. You know what I mean?
And
He's like, you just lost hundreds of millions of dollars. He's like, no, we just learned.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's the best way to, like, think about that mentality is like, nah, yeah, sure, I lost monetarily, but I gained knowledge. I've gained the experience from this experience.
And it's unquantifiable knowledge. You can't put a dollar amount to what you learned.
Absolutely
on
not.
that failure.
But I'm a huge fan of that cigar. I had one yesterday, actually. I had one on Friday in here. I brought it.
You make me want one right now.
I brought it in. You know what? That might be my next cigar, man.
I think so.
I grabbed
go
a double
for it.
Corona. I might have to switch that out.
Is it right? But that was always something that was super interesting to me, is that I didn't know that, like, because the structure of the cigars is like, if it's,
Well,
let's
it's
say
all
it's
proportions.
yeah. But like, I didn't think it would change that dramatically, the flavor and the profile.
Well, they say
Right?
like the wrapper, which is the least amount of proportion you have in a cigar, right? There's more binder, there's more fillers. The outside wrapper, they say it gives it something like 60 or
About
70
50%.
of the taste of the cigar.
Really?
Yeah.
Which, if you ever have one where it flakes off and you smoke the last half of it, you just take the wrapper off and it's a different fucking.
It's
That's very
completely
true.
different.
That's very, very true, because that's happened to me before. Yeah.
So
But yeah, the wrapper to filler ratio is what changes when you change your ring gauge.
Yeah.
You know, the width of the cigar.
Yeah.
so they have to take fillers out. They can't take wrapper off.
No, and that wrapper leaf it's the same leaf. And the smaller ring gauge you go, the better your wrapper to filler ratio is.
Sure.
And the more
higher.
that wrapper flavor profile is going to show through in all your subtle tastes and flavors that you get out of that cigar.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's very, very cool. It's a whole new world, man. And I appreciate you guys like holding my hand through it, like learning stuff. Because honestly, like I've learned more just hanging out with you guys about cigars than
We got to get you down to Nicaragua sometime.
I really want to go, man. I'd love to see the process. I'd love to go down there and hang out and drink some of that rum you guys are always talking about.
Florida
Like,
Canya.
yeah.
But the stuff, it's Florida Canya there is different than Florida Canya here in the
I
States.
think so.
Yeah.
It's so much better there.
Yeah. Well, it's like drinking a Corona south of the border.
Oh,
Like, for some reason.
I had a Heineken in Amsterdam, and it was delicious.
Probably way better.
There was the only Heineken I've ever liked in my entire life.
The very first beer I had getting on ship in Thailand, they had a guy that was selling like the older bottles of friggin' Heineken, the big ass ones, for like $1 each. And we were like, you might need 2 coolers, fucker. And but that was the only time. That was the first beer I had in months. And it was the same. It was like, I was like, this is the best Heineken I've ever had. Yeah. It was like,
Now, granted, it's going to be better the first one you've had in a month.
Yeah. This one I had at the Heineken brewery.
see, that's probably good too. Like,
But it's funny how they told me to drink it. Like they poured my beer, right? And then they had like an inch or two of head on the top.
yeah, it's cleaning your beer.
No, it protects the beer from the air.
Yeah.
Because if the air touches the beer, it spoils the beer.
Keeps it clean.
And he goes, so when you drink it, you put it up to your mouth and then you gulp the beer. So the beer slips underneath that layer of foam and you get just the beer without it hitting the air. I'm like, so you're trying to tell me if your beer touches air, it tastes like shit? and the guy just kind of like looks at me, and I'm like, "That's an honest question."
It's a straight up question, man. Like, well, I learned that at Budweiser Beer School at SeaWorld in San Diego. They used to do, and I think they used to do it here too, because Anheuser-Busch owns SeaWorld, Busch Gardens and all that, and like, yeah, they used to do Budweiser Beer School. And I learned that, like, that was like me dipping my toe into like bartending, I guess. But like, that's where I learned that, like, head on a beer it's good for your beer, right? Like, it actually it keeps it clean. Yeah. So I guess that tracks. Yeah.
It protects it from the air.
So you're telling me.
I know. It blew my mind. I'm like, wait.
That's funny. That's funny.
Well,
yeah. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Anytime, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Sure.
It's been a good one.
I'm glad you can share a little bit of knowledge from a friend in a cigar smoker side. We've had guys in the industry on, and now we had somebody that didn't really smoke and didn't really have the knowledge until they started hanging out. So kind of got you from a newbie into now where I wouldn't really say subject matter expert, but you could definitely explain stuff to other people.
I'm cruising. I can explain your stuff to other people. Yeah. You take me to another brand, I'm screwed.
Well, and that just comes with time. Like, I know for a fact that, like, Scott and I have worked humidors at other shops during events or whatnot. People come in and they're looking for something very specific. And even if it's something that we don't offer, we're going to help them out. We're going to show them other stuff in the humidor based on what we've smoked and our experiences with the other brands. And it's, I mean, everything's subjective.
One thing I like about doing that is when somebody's like, "Oh, have you ever, like, I want one of these." I'm like, or they ask me, have you had one of these? Because that's what I like. Yeah. And if I haven't had one of those, then that's usually the next one.
Right. You're like, oh, no, but I'm going to try it.
I just took a suggestion from a random.
Yeah. But those hidden gems like that, that's how you find the good stuff, right? And to like get off the beaten path and to go and experience a little bit of life, right? Yeah. It's a little bit of difference, and that's what's cool, man. Like, and I think so many of us take that for granted. You know what I mean? Just like that, just that little experience. Yeah. Like, it's such a cool, significant, it seems insignificant at the time, but it could lead to something real cool.
And it usually does.
Yeah. Like asking a weirdo on a rooftop if he wants to have a shot of whiskey. like it worked out.
That was so funny. You want to start JMO? I'm like, they don't have JMO here. I got a bottle in my Jeep.
I got a bottle in my Jeep. I'm like, let's go.
What? I'm like, come in. Yeah. So we drank the whole bottle.
Can you take this picture where the freaking Tower of America is my dick? Thanks.
And then we just became best friends.
It's like, oh, you are also 12 years old. Got it. Nice.
Yep. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we're going to come back to you again next Friday.
Yeah.
With hopefully some more phenomenal cigar knowledge, or mediocre knowledge, either way.
Yeah. But send us more questions.
Yep, we're still going to have fun with it. We got some fun guests that we're going to be having on over the next few episodes and stuff. And make sure you guys enjoy your holidays.
Oh yeah.
Grab some cigars to. An easy way to get away from your family for 45 minutes is tell them you're going to go outside and have a cigar. Half of them aren't going to want to go out there with you, and the ones that are, you're going to have good conversation.
So I felt bad. I got one quick story to tell. I was at that wedding, right? Yeah. It was my cousin's kid, and she was a Marine, and she married a Marine.
Okay,
she met in the Marines, right?
But real original.
They've been out for a little while now, so it's safe bet at this point. But almost the whole wedding party was Marines.
Yeah.
So I brought cigars.
Right.
And so it was like right after the meal, I gave the groom a bundle of cigars. I'm like, here, man, pass these out to whoever. And I said, I know you're all Marines. And he's like, oh, Warfighter, like he had no idea I owned it.
Yeah.
And
that's funny.
He's like, thanks. We were looking for a cigar lounge and it was like a ways away. We didn't want to go. And so everybody went outside. And I felt bad because the dance had just started.
Oh,
everybody went outside to smoke cigars. So the bride came out, and she joined and she was hanging out. I said, hey, whenever you're ready to go back in, I said, I'll make everybody put them down and we'll go back in and enjoy your wedding. And I said, I handed them out. I didn't know that we were going to smoke them right now. I'm sorry, And she's like, oh, it's okay, Then about 30 minutes later, she's like, okay, it's time.
She gave you the look.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, Marines, put them down. Go dance. Get back in the wedding. So, yeah, it was fun, though.
They're like, I like this cigar. Be like, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's funny.
On that note, we'll see you next week.
Yep.